We saw our rectangle tool create strokes and fills at the same time, but most of the rest of our drawing tools are going to be one or the other. For our next tool, let's try out the pen tool. I'm going to go up here, and I just clicked and held down on the tool, and I'm going to choose the pen tool from the top of the stack. Now, the pen tool is a very traditional vector drawing tool. The way it works is you actually go over and click with the pen tool to start drawing. So I'm just going to click right over here. And you see a point got left behind. If I click again, it's going to create another point, and it'll connect a line between them. You can see this is a blue line, and it reflects all of the settings we have for our previous stroke, including the thickness. Now, if I keep clicking, I'm just going to keep creating connected lines. If you want to use this tool to create curved lines, we'll have to do something else. This time, I'm going to click and hold my mouse button down, and while I've got it down, I'm going to drag out a little bit. And you can see what we get here is a little handle. This handle allows me to control the curvature of the line connecting those 2 points. So, based on whether you want a curve or a straight line, you can either just click or click and drag. Let me try that a few more times. I'm just going to click and drag out here, and you can see I've connected with that curve on the last line. I'll click and drag again, and I can even close the curve by going back to my original point. The cursor indicates a little circle there, which shows me that my curve is going to be closed. And again, I'll just click, and I can drag out a little bit to affect that curve handle there, just like the others. This type of vector that we're drawing is referred to as a Bezier curve. And we see these little handles here. Those are referred to as Bezier handles. If you've drawn a curve and you'd like to modify it, let's switch tools. We'll go over to the Subselection tool. This tool is specifically for grabbing points and handles created by the pen tool. I can grab any of the points that we've created and move them around, and you can see that that modifies my curve. We can also grab the handles with these ones and just reshape the curve however we'd like. The pen tool is a good tool for drawing very accurate, precise curves, but it's not very intuitive. So for our next tool, let's try out one that's a little bit easier to understand, and that's the pencil tool. I'll click on it, and I see the options pop up here at the bottom. I'm going to go to the last option here, pencil mode, and I can choose between straighten lines, smooth lines, and ink lines, depending on how smooth I want the curves to be at the end, or how straight or wiggly. Now I'm just going to choose the smooth option, and I can go down to my drawing area and just click and drag out a curve. Now that curve was much easier to draw because we didn't have to worry about where the points or the handles are going to go. But you might notice that it's a little bit lumpier than you wanted it to be. That's okay, because if we go back and select our curve, I'll just choose my normal selection tool. We'll click or double click on the curve as needed. I'm going to double click on mine. One of the options that we have for the selection tool, once we have something selected, is a smooth or straighten option. And I can basically just click that to apply some smoothing to the line. You can see your line changes just a little bit, and if you'd like some more smoothing, just click it again. Now my curves are looking a lot more smooth. They're almost as smooth as what we drew with the pen tool. The curve the pencil tool draws is also a Bezier curve, and we can prove that by going back to our Subselection tool and clicking on the line that we drew with our pencil tool. You'll notice that even though we didn't create them, this line does have points, and if I click on the points, I do have handles, so I can modify this curve the same way as we modified the pen tool curve. In fact, they're exactly the same type of curve. Now, we don't always have to go back to the Subselection tool to modify our curves, though. We have a better way. Let me go back to the Selection tool. Now, we're thinking of this as just a tool that we select things with. But if we have nothing selected at the point, I'm going to click in the empty space on my stage. That deselects everything. And then I'm just going to move my cursor over near the line that we just drew. You can see the cursor change, and we see that little arc added to the cursor. If I just click now and drag a little bit, I'll actually pull and modify my curve. Using the selection tool like this, I'm still making the same kind of changes we would have made with the subselection tool, but I don't even have to know where the points and handles are. I can just grab onto a curve, pull it out a little bit, and reshape it. This will even work on any curve in the program, including the ones that we made with the pen tool. If I go back over to our previous shape and pull that out a little bit, you can see that I can modify it in exactly the same way. We can even go back to our rectangle that we drew originally and we can modify it in the same way. One nice thing you'll see is if you have a stroke and a fill that are right on top of each other, your modifications will take place on both objects, even though they're separate. Now, if we move our cursor to a corner point, we get a slightly different cursor, but this allows us to move that corner point around instead of reshaping the curve. We'll be able to do this with any vector we draw in the program.